Hello, everyone. Hello. All right, this is a momentous occasion because this is the start of the 10th annual Interfaith Religious Tolerance March right here, starting right now. My name is Damien Kevitt, Reverend Damien Kevitt of the Church of Scientology of Los Angeles. I am normally behind the scenes, helping to organize all of this and run behind the scenes. Apparently I got a promotion this year. I am now the Master of Ceremonies. I have been told it comes with a steep pay raise, 200% of zero as a volunteer. So first of all, I want to do an acknowledgement of our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino and Tongva people. I also want, as the MC, I want to say a little something. I'm going to just say a very brief little something here, but since I've been promoted to Master of Ceremonies, I figure I have the right. I want to come out by starting and saying that we are living in changing times. Some people are ecstatic by these times. America is now great again, and anything said that is wrong should be silenced. And some of them are being silenced. And it's seen by some, by many, as the correct thing to do. Finally, someone did the right thing. This doesn't affect my freedom or rights. It was just the right thing to do. Others, I suspect many of you here feel this way, see these changes as something that are deeply disturbing, even scary. You see ways and moral codes and freedoms being reinterpreted, reevaluated, in some cases destroyed. You don't see it as greatness, but instead a great darkness that is descending on America. Political assassinations are back, but not just the most recent one, but there have been several attempts or successful assassinations within the last year. And I don't care if you love or hate what someone says, using violence to silence someone is never the correct route. Listen, I am not here to judge any of your views or beliefs, whatever they might be. That would be against the very essence of why we are marching here today. For tolerance, for peace, and for solidarity. But I need to say this. The very essence of civilization, in fact, the word civilization itself, is rooted in the concept of being civil, being tolerant, being able to listen to someone with different views and understand them, and even loving someone despite their views. It's only when you divide a great civilization, and America has been great, into factions, Democrats versus Republicans, the left versus the right, the crazy liberals versus the fanatical MAGA, that you can start to destroy it. It's when we create that division that we can destroy America's greatness. The British did this when they wielded their colonial might. It was part of their playbook. The Soviets did this many times as they spread communism. KGB agents were schooled in how to divide countries. And the US has also done it covertly in other countries because it was in our national interest. America is a powerful country. It may or may not be great again, but it still has the largest economy in the world and the largest military in the world, and that makes it powerful. It is a powerful country. And I promise you, America is being divided. It can be made weaker right here. It is being made weaker right here, right now, as we speak. We are being divided and torn down because some leaders, like Vladimir Putin, who is trained by the KGB, and others see America as too strong and too dangerous. Some of you see this and possibly wonder why others don't see it. But I promise you, while our current leaders aren't necessarily helping to calm this division, the true source of this, of us versus them, is something that is not always visible. It is insidious. And it didn't start from within this country, but it is now clearly across this country. Americans didn't just start hating Americans. We were made to believe they over there are different. And they over there hate us, so therefore we should hate them. And I promise you, whatever side you are on, they over there are just as scared of what will happen to America as you are, just from a different view. So while you stand up for what's right, and while we march here for solidarity, and please stand up for what's right, please, it's important. Also remember that it's not really us versus them. No matter what might be said by our current leaders or by the media, we are being actively divided because united we are too powerful. And so without abandoning your own values and your own beliefs, please reach out and listen and understand where they might be coming from. And you might find that it's a lot less different than you originally were meant to believe. I'm gonna step off my podium for a moment here, my soapbox. And this march right here, we're gonna have a few speakers saying some very profound words. Then we're gonna be marching to a couple of stops, ending at the Southern California's Islamic Center of Southern California, where we will have a panel. Yes, shout out there for Islamic Center of Southern California. Well, we have a panel. We will also have some food there at the end. And I want this to be an uplifting march, but also a meaningful march. And it needs to be loud. We're not doing this quiet, right? Good. With that, I would like to introduce Deacon Tom Brandlin, who serves as the deacon of St. Basil Parish, where he provides spiritual leadership and pastoral care to the community with a master's of nonprofit administration and a strong background in organizational leadership. Deacon Thomas has dedicated his career to guiding mission-driven initiatives that foster both faith and social impact. His work bridges service, compassion, and effective stewardship. Please welcome Deacon Tom Brandlin.
Thank you. I'm actually one of 3 deacons here, so I'm 1/3 of what he just said. On behalf of Monsignor Frank Hicks, our pastor, and all of our parishioners here at St. Basil's Parish, I want to welcome you to this march. You know, Catholic means universal, and it means everyone's welcome. And that doesn't mean just to come to church. It means everyone is welcome, no matter what your point of view. And what this gentleman just said about all these people yelling and screaming and, you know, MAGA this and leftist this and all that kind of stuff, let's get beyond that. We may not all be members of a church or a congregation, but we all have a spirituality. For all of us, there is something greater than ourselves that motivates us, that we contemplate. And when all of us, with our spirituality and with our religious beliefs in our churches, come together in brotherhood and sisterhood, and do something like this, it may seem like a small thing, but people see what we're doing and they see how we're doing it in love. And they ask, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? And how can so many people of so many different backgrounds and beliefs be fraternal in their relations with one another? And it is little by little that people see that the world will be changed to something really good. Thank you for being here.
Next, I'd like to introduce from the Los Angeles Police Department, Captain Rachel Rodriguez, Commanding Officer, Olympic Division. Captain Rodriguez serves as the commanding officer of LAPD's Olympic Division, where she leads community policing, crime reduction strategies, and public safety initiatives in one of the city's most diverse areas. a dedicated law enforcement professional with years of experience across multiple divisions. Waiting for a moment there. Okay, now you can hear me again. A dedicated law enforcement professional with years of experience across multiple divisions, Captain Rodriguez is committed to building strong community partnerships, fostering trust, and ensuring safety and well-being of its residents, businesses, and visitors. Please welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction and that long pause so that you can all stare at me. Really, this is a powerful moment. When I look around and I see everyone of different races, ethnicities, religious backgrounds, it's powerful that we're all able to come together in this moment and really, one, learn from each other, hear each other, meet each other, greet each other, and create community among one another. And that is how we make change. It is not through the division. It is not through the arguing. It's the power of stepping together hand in hand as we make this community stronger and better and give our children a hopeful future. So I look around here and I see everyone's happy faces, and the power that we're gonna have today walking in this community, everyone seeing us, getting to know us, and us getting to know one another are the first steps that we have. And thank you very much for taking the time to be here today on this very humid day. We're definitely going to get our steps in and maybe lose a couple of those summer pounds that we were trying to lose. So thank you again for being here, and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mohammed Khan, who has been a faith and community activist for the past 30 years. He has served as a Muslim chaplain at Los Angeles County Men's Central Jail, as well as is currently the president of the Interfaith Initiative of Santa Barbara County. He also serves as a member of the board of the Interfaith Institute for the Religious Tolerance, Peace, and Justice. Mr. Khan has committed his life to serving his local and global community by continuing to advocate for tolerance, peace, and nonviolence. Please welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to give everyone the greetings. Assalamu alaikum. Greetings of peace. Shalom. Namaste. It's really, an honor to be amongst all of you here today, because you could be doing better things or other things on a nice day like this, but you decide to come to the Interfaith Solidarity March here in Los Angeles. Faiths in unity, reclaiming our humanity. So I'll first start out with a multi-faith chant. I'll start out in Spanish. Dios, mi corazón anhela por ti. Toda la gloria es tuya, mi Dios. God, our hearts yearn for you, yearn for peace. All glory is only for you. In the language of Jesus, peace be upon him, in Aramaic, all glory and all praise is only for you. And in Hebrew, Baruch Shemu Leolam Va'id. Blessed is your name for eternity. And in Arabic, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, All praise and thanks is only to you. You are the Lord of all the worlds. God, it's a blessing to be amongst the lovers of peace. People here united, Hindus, Muslims, Jews, Sikhs, for one reason, to make a call to reclaim our humanity. You know, Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, when he went to Pharaoh, he didn't come to take revenge. He came to take back humanity. Prophet Moses, peace be upon him. Jesus, peace be upon him, the Prince of Peace, never advocated hatred, only advocated reclaiming humanity through love. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Shall I tell you what's better than prayer and fasting?" For those of you who don't know, an observant Muslim prays 5 times a day and fasts twice in a week. And then in the month of Ramadan, from sunup to sundown, is 30 days. So imagine the lifestyle of prayer and fasting. So Prophet Muhammad made a statement. He said, "Can I tell you what's better than prayer and fasting?" And he said, "Bringing people together." God loves peace. We're all human. We're all special. We're all created with the light of the Creator. Every human being is unique, and every human being is special. This is the International Day of Peace. So I'm going to end here. We get a lot of comments. People say, "Oh, interfaith work has been happening so long. Where's the fruits? Where's peace?" The faith leader is like a stoplight. Deacon, we're like a stoplight. When the stoplight says red, we stop. If you go, you may have a collision with another car. That's an accident. So as faith leaders, we're here to remind humanity there's a certain way of dealing with conflict, and it's laid out in all faiths. All faiths promote peace. But it's not just the faith leaders, because ultimately, who did Moses, peace be upon him, go to? Pharaoh. So now you're dealing with people who have power. So our goal in this march is to wake up those who have power to promote peace, forgiveness, and to end all wars and suffering. May God accept our prayer. And thank you again, all of you, on such a day that you are devoting your time for humanity. And I also want to say special thanks to Professor R. Greenberg. I remember when he decided to start this many years ago, and him and his wife and the whole team here sacrificing their life for humanity. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I just have to say thank you for the prayers in multiple languages. I thought that was very special. And for your words. We're gonna have a little song. We're gonna bring some music here. I'd like to introduce Mr. Terry Lupton, who is a talented singer, songwriter, and producer whose career spans writing and producing for a wide range of artists and across genres. With almost 100 commercially published songs to his name, almost 100 commercially published songs to his name, he is known for his creative versatility, soulful approach to music. Terry is a master of using songs to tell stories that resonate with audiences worldwide, and continues to inspire both fans and fellow musicians with his artistry and dedication to the craft. Please welcome Terry.
Thank you, brother. That was just incredible for that first intro. Like everyone, I'm going to follow this glorious thread that has been brought to us. And I was fortunate to just, on a whim, I made a phone call. And I spoke with Melissa. And Melissa was gracious, and I told her I had composed this song called Beautiful People, which we're all going to sing together, I hope. And she was so gracious, she introduced me to Eric. Thank you very much for having me today. And I have some t-shirts, so we're going to do this together. Roxanne, if you could join us. Roxanne, help. Here, hold these, put them on or do whatever, and we're going to try to do the song. I need you to hold these, please.
Absolutely.
Okay. I want you to press this when it comes up. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We weren't prepared there. So this song is called Beautiful People, and it's all about what we're doing today. And what I see is beauty before me, beauty behind me, beauty to the left of me, beauty to the right of me, beauty above me, beauty below me. We are on the beautiful path. You are all beautiful people. I dedicate this to you all and for everyone here. They really helped out. Here we go. Join in. It's very easy.
Silently sleeping, forever dreaming, we know the journey goes on. All of us breathing this glorious feeling, something so good can't be gone. Life is in motion, deep as the ocean. Listen to the waterfalls. The stars up above, the stories of love, and we're just a part of it all. Beautiful people, together we stay alive. Beautiful people, nobody really dies. Beautiful people, everywhere you go. Beautiful people, everyone you know. Each generation gets an invitation to prove the prophecies of time. And if you believe in heaven and the universe, you're standing in the right line. Together we stay alive. Beautiful people, nobody really dies. They should place a song. Oh man, sing along. Rising from the dust, a beautiful place awaits for all of us. Together we stay alive.
Everybody sing. Here we go.
Beautiful people,
Say it.
nobody really dies. Everywhere you go. Everyone you know. Beautiful people.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, all right. Love is the only subject. I'll say that one more time. Love is the only subject. Thank you, gentlemen. This is fantastic. St. Basil's. Here we are, everybody. Thanks. Woo!
Do I get that?
Yeah.
All right. Let's give it another. Whoop. Did we lose there? There we go. Let's give another round of applause for Terry Lupton. Our next speaker, honestly, needs no introduction, for it's because of his vision and leadership that we are here today. But as your MC, I am obligated to say a few introductory words which will no doubt not do an iota of justice to the depth of his work, knowledge, and good old-fashioned compassion for the interfaith community. This introduction was not reviewed by him before I sent it, so therefore it is honest. It's got some depth to it here. So I am, of course, talking about the founder of the Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace, and Justice, Dr. Eric Greenberg. The Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace, and Justice is an organization dedicated to fostering interfaith dialogue, mutual understanding, and collaboration across diverse communities. Dr. Greenberg is a professor of comparative religion and has taught at Loyola Marymount University, Claremont School of Theology, and several other institutions, sharing his expertise in world religions, interfaith relations, and social justice. As a scholar and author, Dr. Greenberg has published both academic works and fiction, weaving together his passion for history, spirituality, and storytelling. His books and articles explore the intersections of faith, culture, and human experience, reflecting his lifelong commitment to bridging divides and inspiring peace. Through his leadership, scholarship, and writing, Dr. Greenberg continues to bring together voices from different faith communities to build bridges and advance a more compassionate, just, and inclusive society. Please, huge round of applause for Dr. Eric Greenberg.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. That was a beautiful introduction, and really, I did not review that. I'm just going to put that right there for now. I want to welcome all of you to the 10th annual Interfaith Solidarity March Los Angeles, which is a flagship partner of the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice, or the IMPJ. I know there's a lot of alphabet soup. Every time I come up here, I'm always quoting letters at you, but maybe we'll do our best to keep them straight. The IMPJ, the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice, is the largest coalition of interfaith marches around the world. And our little march here, the Interfaith Solidarity March Los Angeles, is just one march in that coalition. So being in our 10th year is quite an accomplishment. So let me talk just a little bit about the history of this march and our theme today. For those of you who are not familiar with this march, or if this is your first time joining us, we've been marching here in Los Angeles since 2016. And this is our 10th consecutive year of events, not just 10th year, but 10th consecutive year, including the 2 years that the pandemic forced us to do this online to avoid any break in continuity. And that was important to us, to not just sort of stay home. We stayed home, we sheltered at home, but we reached out to each other. We used Zoom and all sorts of electronic capabilities to make sure that we stayed together. So we've done a lot in just a couple of years, and we're glad that you've joined us today. This event began as primarily a march to support the Muslim community following several Islamophobic incidents. And our march focused mainly on unity between the Abrahamic traditions, initially calling it the In the Path of the Prophet Abraham. In 2017, the first march was so successful that we did it again. In 2017, we really emphasized the inclusion of the larger interfaith community and not just Abrahamic faiths, which is why we renamed it the Interfaith Solidarity March. In fact, we were joined by people of every faith and even people of no faith, as the humanist, agnostic, and neo-pagan communities also gave their support. That march was so successful that we were asked to help launch a sister march in the San Fernando Valley that same year in 2017, which was incredibly successful. Since that time, we've seen ups and downs in numbers of participants, as there is a lot of activist fatigue, as I'm sure many of you know, But we've reached larger and larger audiences as we became a flagship march of the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice Coalition, that IMPJ that I just mentioned, and that was in 2018. So we've been marching here since 2016, but we joined that larger community in 2018, just to kind of review that timeline with you, because there will be a test on this later. All right. And I've got several students here. They know I mean business. All right. But we've been the lead organization of the IMPJ Coalition since 2019, and I'm really proud of that. That community includes no fewer than 24 distinct communities around the world who are marching or meeting in solidarity with us. Some of them have panel discussions, some of them have potlucks, others have actual traditional marches. They are, I guess you'd say, autonomous communities that make the decisions for how they want to present in their particular regions. Some of those marches coincide on the same day, so we have a few that are marching with us today, but there are others that take place at a time that is more seasonable for their regions. Some of them do it in the spring. But there are two March events that I want to highlight which are also running today. All right, these are your friends, your siblings, your colleagues in different locations. So here in the U.S. is our sister march in Cheyenne, Wyoming, run by the Circle of Cheyenne Citizens, Warriors, and Friends. They are meeting at the Wyoming State Capitol today and are headed by Joe Ramirez. So I want to send out a little message of love to Joe. Yeah. And the other is our longtime friends in Malawi, in Africa, where there are twin marches, actually not just one march, but two marches in Malawi. One is in the city of Lilongwe, or the region of Lilongwe, headed by Geoffrey Manassa, an old friend of ours. And the other is in Balaka, near Nkudzi Bay, headed by Nicholas Mundala. And so I want to send our shout out to them and to thank you for including us in their joy. So maybe they'll see this on the internet later on, and Geoffrey can say, "Oh, that's our friend in Los Angeles." So sometimes it's hard to keep up with who is marching when, but there are likely a few even in Ohio today that are marching, and there are others that have already completed their marches in the spring. One of which is Philadelphia, which is actually the longest running interfaith march in the United States, as far as I recall. So we want to send our loving regards to them, and bear in mind that we are holding our events in solidarity with them across the world. So what are we marching for, or what are we marching about today? Our theme is, as it says on the flyer, the program, Faiths in Unity, Reclaiming Our Humanity. Our nation and our world have seemingly lost or forgotten our shared humanity on many levels. In our nation, we're seeing increased hatred and polarization and entrenchment and tribalism. We've seen increases in religious bigotry and intolerance, and we're seeing an increase in hate crimes, mistreatment of those at the bottom of society, and even political violence, such as assassinations. And overseas, we are seeing brutal, endless wars, and ethnic cleansings, and even genocides in numerous locales, whether you've heard of them or not. At this time, we need to focus on civil discourse and the need to listen to others, even if you disagree with them. It is crucial that we listen to the proverbial other, and I'm using scare quotes here, my students know what I'm talking about, so as not to forget their common shared humanity. This march, this event, is an opportunity for that. And we're going to have a panel discussion later today that honors the International Day of Peace, which coincides with our march today, as Damien had said. Right now, we're walking to embody our ability to be at peace with everyone around us, be they of a monotheistic religion, or a polytheistic one, or even a non-theistic one. If they're agnostic, atheist, pagan, Abrahamic, traditional and indigenous religions, or anything otherwise, we are all in this together, seeking a lasting, absolute peace amidst a beautifully stewarded, sustainable world. The famous Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, which some of you have heard of, when asked why he was marching with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, he said he was praying with his feet. Maybe that can inspire us in our work today to pray with our feet, to envision this as an act of prayer or devotion to whatever God we pray to, if any at all, that we are sending out positive vibes of love and friendship to all the earth and all the cosmos in a way that every major world religious leader has preached for thousands of years. So I want to invite all of you to walk with someone you have never met before. Come out of your shell, put aside your natural shyness that many of us have and tendency to associate with only those who we know or those who seem to be like us. Talk with somebody of a different faith or someone who doesn't look like you. So I want to thank you again for being here today and for believing in this march. And I want to thank Damien for a very kind and lovely statement. And I want to thank all of our volunteers and all of our marchers, everyone who took time out of their day to march for peace and justice. And I also want to remind people that we do have some things on the table there that do need to be packed up. So maybe if a couple of people are willing to just hang back for a couple of minutes as we are starting our march and help Deacon Tom Brandlin break down some tables, help my students put away some of the boxes of literature and stuff like that, that would be very much appreciated. And I promise we won't go too fast without you. You can catch up with us easily. We'll just probably be a block away. So anyway, that's all I'll say, and thank you very much for being here. And I'm not going to drop the mic. I'm going to put it down.
We have one more speaker before we're going to be organizing for the march itself. We arguably saved the best for last here, and I want you to just look around at this beautiful cathedral you have here. Look around. Look at this beautiful cathedral. Look at the stained glass. We are here at St. Basil's Catholic Church. And I am honored to bring Monsieur Frank Hicks, who was ordained to the priesthood in January of 2000. He has served at St. Basil's since July of 2006. First as an administrator, then as the pastor in 2007. He is the director of the Cardinal Charities Foundation, the senior chaplain of the Los Angeles Police Department. He's a chaplain for the Emerald Society of Los Angeles. He's a chaplain for the Fraternal Order of Retired Border Patrol Officers. He's a senior officer of the Victor McLaglen Motorcycle Stunt and Drill Team. That is correct, I did say that. And a chaplain at the Cedars-Sinai Hospital of Los Angeles. Please welcome Monsieur Frank Hicks.
Well, it's great that we're all here today. It's it's not too warm, the sun's coming out. And it just makes my heart feel so full, so that people so diverse can gather here and say, we're brothers and sisters. We love one another. We journey together. And there is no hatred in our ranks. And I'd like to end this whole event here before the walk with the ancient Celtic blessing, as you can imagine. Francis Joseph Michael, you can imagine where his folks came from. Great Celtic blessing. May the road ride out to meet you. May the sun shine warmly upon your face. May the rains fall softly upon your fields. May the wind be always at your back. And until we meet again, may the divine presence hold us in the palm of his hand. God bless you all for being here. God bless you all for making that statement that one another is far greater and far more important than any ideology, any religion, any folklore. We're brothers and sisters. Thanks be to God.
Okay, we are preparing for the march. First, before we do that, I want to thank all of the volunteers. Volunteers, raise your hands. There we go. Give them a round of applause. This is an all-volunteer event. It is purely done on the backs of volunteers. We will have some march marshals. They will be in high-vis vests, so while we're marching, if for whatever reason you need to stay behind, or if it's hot or you need to sit down, let one of the marshals know and they'll stay with you. They're there for your safety. We are also, our friends in law enforcement will have a very visible and proactive presence on this march, and I want to thank them for being here, all of you for helping us with that. They are here to ensure the safety and security of all of us. We do ask that everyone abide by the laws and regulations governing this area, and that everyone practice the good habit of courtesy and tolerance towards everyone as we march. Remember, this is a march for unity, solidarity, and peace. I am going to turn this over to our march lead, our chanting lead who's done this year after year, who's experienced not only with our march here, but in many other marches. Ali Tweeney is the executive board member at the Teamsters Local 2010, a labor organization that represents thousands of workers across California. He was appointed to the California Employment Training Panel by the President of the California Senate. He serves as the Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors at the Islamic Center of Southern California. Ali Tweeney believes that an effective community member must be an active citizen and maintain crucial networks with organizations with common goals. Please welcome him, because he's going to take us and start getting this march together.
Thank you for the generous introduction. Thank you, everyone. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, I greet you with what good, with what important, and with what true. I greet you with peace. Peace be upon all of you. I would say that there is no place that any good human being would rather be other than being in this place. Everyone who made the effort to be here today is part of a change, part of something more important than anything else that we can and would be doing. I want to take a point of privilege of thanking Dr. Greenberg of making this effort. Him and his wife, Melissa, are not just doing the work, they're walking in God's shoes. And that takes effort and takes so much commitment to do this great work, to bring people together. We're all American. We love America. And America loves us. America loves you. She loves you with all of her heart. But she expects from you to love her back. Love her back by amplifying your voices. Be part of a change. Be the change yourself. Don't just sit back. We live in difficult times. But in America, as all the speakers have said before me, there were so many difficulties, but there was a proof that we can come over these difficulties and do better as Americans. We always, no matter how things can get difficult, we can revert. The Constitution is our refuge. We can always be covered under the Constitution. Let's stand together. Let's amplify our voices. Today, we're gonna walk, and we're gonna march, and we're gonna chant. We want to let the whole world know who we are and why we chant. So chanting during peace marches serve to build solidarity, amplify the message, and assert collective presence. Let's elevate our collective voices and march for justice, peace, love, unity, freedom, and let everyone hear us loud and proud. The march for good will continue. The march for peace will continue. I always come up with some chants, but last night I was obligated to come up with something different, something new to meet the moment. So when I say these chants, so remember, so you can repeat after me. It's true, but I was told, truth and justice always hold. Lies and tricks will not divide, people standing side by side. And when I say people, you say power. When I say people, you say power. Let's give it a try. It's true, but I was told, truth and justice always hold. I will say, it's true, but I was told. You say truth and justice always hold. It's true, but I was told. It's true, but I was told. I want to say, lies and tricks will not divide. You will say, people standing side by side. Lies and tricks will not divide. People standing side by side. Lies and tricks will not divide. People standing side by side. When I say people, you say power. People. Power. People. Power. People. Power. People. Power. How powerful is that? Let's amplify our voices. Let's march for peace. Let's march for good. And let's everybody hear us. On to a good march. Thank you.
Okay, let's do this. We're going to start off with a photo here right on the steps. So everyone come onto the steps, turn around. We're going to have a photo from down there looking up at all of your beautiful faces.
mighty people,
mighty people,
working for justice,
working for justice.
good people,
All good people,
proud people.
proud people.
Shall we tell them
Shall we tell them
we are the people?
we are the people marching for fairness,
Marching for fairness.
marching for goodness.
We are the people.
We are the people. Mighty, mighty people. Marching for justice. Marching for fairness. Yeah, we tell them. We are the
Welcome friends and family and neighbors. Welcome. My name is Martin Anthony. I'm the worship director for the church for Emmanuel Presbyterian Church. Welcome to this March for Peace. On behalf of Emmanuel, it is an honor to welcome you to this place that has long been a home for seekers of justice, sanctuary, and interfaith friendship. Our congregation, a diverse, immigrant, bilingual, we know something about being displaced, about longing for home, about holding on to hope when the world feels unsteady. And so, we look at Gaza today when we see families without shelter, children without safety, entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Our hearts break when we hear the daily struggles of Palestinians in the West Bank, pushed off their land, living under occupation. We grieve. At the same time, we know that our Jewish neighbors, they carry deep wounds of anti-Semitism, both ancient and alarmingly present in our own country. We know that our Muslim siblings too face violence, suspicion, and discrimination. The pain is layered, the stories are complex, and yet our commitment to one another must be unwavering. At Emmanuel, we recently we had a screening of the documentary No Other Land, which tells the story of families being displaced in the West Bank. Watching it together, we both felt outrage and compassion. But most of all, we felt a call to not to look away. As people of faith, we are called to bear witness and to act. This march is today one way of saying we're not going to look away, we're not looking away, we will not be numb, we will not let cynicism and despair have the last word. Instead, we're going to walk side by side, Christians, Muslims, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, humanists, raising our voices for peace, for justice, and for dignity of every human being. Here at Emmanuel, our name means God with us. That's what it means, God with us. And we believe that when we come together across boundaries of faith and culture, God is indeed with us, working through us, giving us the strength to resist hatred and guiding us toward peace. May our footsteps echo a deeper truth that another world is possible. May this march sow seeds of friendship, courage, and hope. And may we live here committed, not only in dialogue, but also to action, so that all of God's children in Gaza, Israel, here in Los Angeles, and in everywhere, might live in a safety and peace. Thank you, and once again, welcome to Emmanuel Presbyterian Church.
All right.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Do we want to do another photo, or before we go, a little photo op? Are we good in photo?
Can you take a picture of my friend?
Oh, here we go. We have one photo op there.
We're standing here. If someone wants a photo, take it now.
Yes.
That was a little serious there, people. We need to have a little bit lighter. Let's show some warmth and some love.
Yeah.
There we go.
Very good, thank you. One more, and thank you.
Thank you for chanting, for being loud. I want to thank you for just being part of this. We have one speaker who's going to be speaking. Normally, the park is open, and we are in the beautiful park, but it's being refurbished right now. So I want to introduce our speaker right now, which is James Whitaker, who serves as the co-chair of the Faith in Action Commission of the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica, which works to advance social and environmental justice on the west side of Los Angeles with many interfaith allies and community partners. He also serves on the board of the Unitarian Universalist Humanist Association, which celebrates the humanist tradition of inquiry and ethics through scholarships, education, and advocacy within the Unitarian Universalism and the wider world. Please welcome Mr. James Whitaker.
Thank you. I know that's all kind of a mouthful. Right into the mic. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Good afternoon. The 10th year that some of us have shown up. I think I've been to all 10 of them, including the 2 that were on Zoom. So thanks so much to Eric and all the organizers for keeping us going. The first principle of Unitarian Universalism is the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, which is a humanistic idea that I think is expressed in some way by diverse faith traditions in modern times. And I think of this principle often, too often, when I hear the slurs and attacks on people because of their identities. We have to keep saying, the interfaith community, that no one is evil or violent or less than fully human because of their religion, because of their race or ethnicity, because of their sexuality, because of their gender. Today I want to lift up the full humanity of our trans and non-binary community, okay? Whom we must not allow to be scapegoated and targeted according to an unfortunately familiar authoritarian playbook. And at the same time, as Damien and Eric touched on earlier, let us reiterate that no one deserves violence. No one deserves violence because of their words and beliefs, even if those words and beliefs are divisive, even if they are hateful, even if they are lies. Dr. King said, you can murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie nor establish the truth through violence. Today on this International Day of Peace, here, I thought we would be in the park, so adjacent to the Robert F. Kennedy Inspiration Park, at the site of the former Ambassador Hotel, the words of Robert F. Kennedy can still speak to us about the desperate need for peace and healing in a country still addicted to violence and in a world still in the throes of war. On April 5th, 1968, more than 65 years ago, the day after the assassination of Martin Luther King, Senator Kennedy delivered a short address entitled "On the Mindless Menace of Violence." I just want to share a few of those words. The victims of the violence are black and white, rich and poor, young and old, famous and unknown. They are, most important of all, human beings whom other human beings loved and needed. No one, no matter where he lives or what he does, can be certain who will suffer next from some senseless act of bloodshed, and yet it goes on and on and on. Whenever any American's life is taken by another American unnecessarily, whenever we tear at the fabric of life, which another man has painfully and clumsily woven for himself and his family, the whole nation is degraded. When you teach a man to hate and fear his brother, when you teach that he is a lesser man because of his color or his beliefs or the policies he pursues, when you teach that those who differ from you threaten you or threaten your freedom or your job or your family, then you also learn to confront others not as fellow citizens, but as enemies, to be met not with cooperation, but with conquest, to be subjugated and mastered. We must admit the vanity of our false distinctions among men and learn to find our own advancement in the search for the advancement of all. We must admit in ourselves that our own children's future cannot be built on the misfortunes of others. We must recognize that this short life can neither be ennobled nor enriched by hatred or revenge. Our lives on this planet are too short and the work to be done too great to let this spirit linger in our land any further. Of course, we cannot vanquish it with a program, nor with a resolution, but we can perhaps remember, even only for a time, that those who live with us are our brothers and sisters, that they share with us the same short moment of life, that they seek as we do nothing but the chance to live out their lives in purpose and happiness. Surely this bond of common faith, this bond of common goal can begin to teach us something. Surely we can learn to look at those around us as fellow human beings, and surely we can work a little harder to bind up the wounds among us and to become in our hearts brothers, sisters, fellow citizens, countrymen once again. His words can be inspiring and empowering, and yet we are also reminded that Senator Kennedy died here, just a stone's throw from here, only 2 months after delivering that speech, he himself a victim of a senseless act of bloodshed. That is a reminder to me that the work is never finished, and that we all must keep marching together for peace and justice.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Working for fairness.
Marching for fairness. People want to know
Who we are.
who we are.
Shall we tell them?
Shall we tell them?
Shall we
We are the people.
The mighty, mighty people.
The mighty, mighty people.
Marching for equality. Marching for equality.
Marching for peace.
It's a true but I've been told.
Truth and justice always hold.
Truth and justice always hold. People standing side by side. People standing side by side. Working for fairness.
Working for fairness.
Working for equality.
Working for equality. People want to know
Who we are.
who we are. Give peace a chance.
That's
We are saying, give peace a chance. All we are saying,
let's give peace a chance.
all we are saying,
Let's give peace a chance.
Everyone, again, my name is Damian Kevitt. I am a minister at the Church of Scientology of Los Angeles. It's my honor to, this year, after having helped to organize this event for many years in a row, to now be your MC this year. And for those who were not with us earlier, were not marching with us, or were not at the very beginning, we had wonderful speakers and music at the very beginning, and I want to just give them all another round of applause for their inspirational words. I do want to say this entire activity is volunteer-led. The Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace, and Justice has been around for over 10 years now. Are we 11th anniversary, 12th? So 2011, you do the math. I'm too tired right now to actually do that deeper math. But it is a purely volunteer-led organization. And we need more organizations. We need more people like Dr. Greenberg in the world speaking up for solidarity, speaking up for interfaith. There can't be enough of this. I can't tell you how important these conversations. And while we might say, well, how can these few people make a difference? How can this conversation make a difference for the masses? I want you to all open your phones and see how many people are in your phones and how many people you influence. Your thoughts, your ideas, your care matters. And by you being here, you are spreading this. You can help spread this to many, many more, to thousands, to millions. You have influence. So this is important. And I also want to say that if you can donate to support this, please do. It is entirely volunteer-led. It is, in some cases, out of the pocketbooks of Dr. Greenberg, and he probably doesn't want me to say that, but I'm going to say it because he cares so much that he helps to finance this, and with no return on it other than knowing that it's important to do. So if you can take a moment before the end here, go onto the website and donate $5. That's a cup of coffee these days. It's actually less than a cup of coffee if you add a oat milk and extra shot here and a little bit of that. It's that's less than a cup of coffee, and that makes a difference. Or donate what you're comfortable with. $25, $50, $100. This is a lean organization. Please give me an acknowledgement, otherwise I'll keep going. Yeah, thank you. All right. I want to introduce the programs coordinator of the Islamic Center of Southern California, Miss Erica Schley, to open this up here.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May God's peace and blessings be upon all of you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. I welcome all of you on behalf of the Islamic Center of Southern California. Especially during difficult times like these, it's important for us to come together in solidarity for peace and justice and to reclaim our humanity. Today is the International Day of Peace, something only achievable if we treat everyone the way that we wish to be treated, with dignity, kindness, respect, and justice. It has been an honor to be part of the Interfaith Solidarity March Planning Committee over the past several months and see people of various faiths come together to promote peace, justice, and mutual understanding. I pray that we can continue to support each other in helping build a more just and peaceful world. I pray that we can be the example of change that we want to see in the world. Thank you very much. And now we have our opening prayer by our religious director, Sheikh Hassan Boyuksoy.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. Welcome to the Islamic Center. So it's good to see you all. I'm going to start with the first chapter of Al-Quran al-Karim, which is Surah Al-Fatiha. And then afterwards, I'm going to do a brief prayer. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. O God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, you created us from a single soul and made us into nations and tribes so that we may know one another. Yet we confess our divisions, our neglect of the weak, our forgetfulness of the sacred trust you placed in us. O God, soften our hearts to the pain of every child, every mother, every neighbor, regardless of color, language, or creed. Remove from us arrogance, anger, and the veils that keep us apart. Guide our leaders and our communities toward justice and reconciliation. Replace our fear with hope, our despair with steadfast action. O God, help us reclaim the humanity you bestowed upon us so that we may stand together as one family beneath your mercy. O most loving, unite us in service to what is good and true, and accept our prayers and make us instrument of your peace and justice. Amen.
So with that, we come to the second part of today's activity here, which is our panel. And I'm going to let Dr. Eric Greenberg introduce and get this going here. Sir, please welcome Dr. Eric Greenberg.
So if you don't mind me adding a note of jocularity, I guess I won't ask if this thing is on because we know it's on. As our planning committee deliberated the theme of this event, Faiths in Unity, Reclaiming Our Humanity, we held in mind the fact that so many of our politicians, both in America and abroad, have compromised their commitment to peace and to our common shared humanity. Many of them have perpetrated horrendous acts against their own citizens, in some cases, and against citizens of other countries whose very existence is not an affront to anyone. I speak of Russia's invasion of and continued war in Ukraine. I speak of the continued mistreatment of Uyghurs in China, the Rohingya in Myanmar, and the ongoing humanitarian crisis in South Sudan. But I also speak of the genocide in Gaza, fueled by American military ordnance and material support, being unwaveringly supported by many different pro-Israel groups, including Zionists of Jewish origin and Christian Zionists as well, which is intriguingly the largest demographic of Zionists in the world. I don't know if you knew that. And this was initially supported by a Democratic president and further promulgated by a Republican president, truly reminding us of the shared culpability of both our major parties in this modern-day Holocaust. I also speak of the ongoing disappearance of many law-abiding Americans of various descent, including Hispanics, some of whom are wrongly arrested and detained without legal recourse. Hearing the words of those supporting these policies of massive deportation without compassionate consideration of extenuating circumstances or even attention to the legal rights of all people to due process under the law. I am reminded of some of the rhetoric among more conservative Americans during the early days of that so-called war on terror, which many of us remember, with many people claiming that these political detainees had no rights because they were terrorists. Do you remember that kind of rhetoric? But the very nature of our Constitution is to protect the right to legal defense for all citizens, residents, and visitors, regardless of their ethnicity or legal status. If one is deemed innocent until proven guilty, then how could someone lose these rights before ever being convicted of a crime, let alone that of terrorism? We have also seen a rise in authoritarianism here in the United States, another way in which we have lost our humanity. I believe in the rule of law. I do. Perhaps departing from some of my more left-leaning colleagues, I acknowledge that unchecked illegal immigration does in fact have many unforeseen deleterious effects on various aspects of the economy, including diminishing the wages of American workers, eroding worker protections for both citizens and undocumented workers, effectively exploiting the human rights of both undocumented workers and citizen laborers. But if we are to enforce the nation's laws evenly across the board, we must show compassion toward all human beings and refrain from demonizing them as if they were the source of all evil. Respect for the rule of law does not only include enforcing immigration laws, but also enforcing due process and equal access to legal representation and key principles such as habeas corpus. We must acknowledge the fact that many Undocumented immigrants are fleeing countries whose very fabric has been historically destroyed by American meddling, which has often replaced democratic regimes with dictatorships that are friendly to American business interests, such as United Fruit Company, for starters. As such, are these not refugees worthy of resettlement, just like those fleeing the Ayatollah's Iran in the 1970s? Or the Hmong people of Southeast Asia, all of whom were typically granted asylum? We have seen a steady increase in political violence as a viable option for people who deem their side to have the only claim to truth. Perhaps among the earliest of these incidences, we saw January 6th, 2021, as a day in which thousands of followers of Donald Trump declared that an election had been stolen without providing any hard evidence of this, and descended upon our capital to do violence not only to people, but also to our rule of law. And make no mistake, they did not merely walk into the Capitol, as some have claimed, as if it were a peaceful protest or a tourist's visit. They broke through barricades and brutalized and even murdered. They raped our nation and its Constitution. But this has continued incrementally since then. Rather than trusting the strength of their arguments, we have seen death threats against political adversaries and even murders. Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark Hortman, were murdered by right-wing extremists, an event that has been conveniently forgotten by right-wing supporters of Trump, especially in light of the overshadowing murder of Charlie Kirk, which up to this moment has been often touted as an act of violence fulminated by left-wing factions, but with scant evidence to support this. Regardless of what one thinks of Kirk's ideas or behavior, it is crucial that we condemn all forms of political violence, lest in our tacit endorsement of violence against our adversaries, we also unwittingly promulgate the other side's violence as justifiable retaliation against our own side's endorsement of violence. It is a slippery slope. Over the last few years, I have seen progressive friends boldly proclaim on social media that it's okay to punch Nazis. But who determines what is a Nazi? And if we are not in immediate bodily peril, then who are we to endorse any violence as a necessity or even permissible? Cannot our adversaries conversely justify punching or even killing left-leaning ideologues because they are tantamount to terrorists or enemies of the state? Even I was recently the target of collective blame for the death of Charlie Kirk. I didn't remember killing him, but a friend of mine said I did, simply because I lean left. An old friend had become radicalized and began vying for a civil war as retaliation for murdering Charlie Kirk, a highly dubious accusation, as I said above. In reality, I have maintained that we can mourn the loss of a human life while still acknowledging the shortcomings of a public figure like Kirk. But this deliberate political targeting of ideological enemies did not begin with that most recent assassination. Several years ago, fellow professors of mine were targeted by Turning Point USA for their left-leaning ideas, their names maintained on a watch list on the website, and at least one of them received death threats from followers of Turning Point USA, causing him to resign from the school out of fear for his life. And you know who he was. And this is just an amplification of the kind of targeting of intellectuals that we saw over the last 2 decades under Newt Gingrich's and Glenn Beck's incubation and tacit endorsement. Let me say that if the strength of our arguments is so weak that we have to resort to political violence, then perhaps there is something wrong with our arguments. Additionally, we have witnessed a collective unwillingness to see the humanity in cases where collective punishment has been levied against a whole demographic, a people, a nation. I speak of the ongoing genocide and ethnic cleansing in Gaza and the West Bank. I am horrified to see such a lack of compassion for the people of Gaza by significant portions of the American Jewish community, along with those in Israel, along with significant portions of the right-leaning Christian community. I have seen far too little outcry from the Jewish community against this global atrocity, tacitly claiming that Israel, as the ostensible representative of global Jewry, can do no wrong, that the annihilation of Palestinians is part of God's plan. I have seen outright denial that a genocide is taking place in spite of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. I have seen unwavering support of both the genocide and the heartless right-wing extremist Israeli government perpetrating it by communities of American evangelical Christians, as if to make up for generations of rampant anti-Semitism, as if to enable an abused child to become a bully and even a murderer were the right way to make up for one's own erstwhile abuse and neglect of that very child. I've seen far too little willingness to see the humanity of the proverbial other, as if we could not hold two human beings equally worthy of life. Can we hold in our hearts not only the 1,200 Israeli dead of October 7th, but also the countless Palestinian dead of October 8th and every day beyond? Can we not mourn civilians of every sort? Have we become so inhumane that we see an entire demographic and ethnicity as fair game for their children to be shot in the head, dead in the streets? And all we can say is that they all deserved it, or that they were merely collateral damage, exonerating civilian atrocities with the paltry excuse of war is hell. Underlying these instances of entrenchment, I have seen far too little listening to each other's lived experiences, our subjective truths. Valerie Kaur speaks of Vismad, a principle within the Sikh tradition, which describes wonderment at the divine, especially within each other. Can we not treat each other as children of the divine who have the same needs for safety and prosperity? Do we need to demonize the other as being un-American or terrorists? Similarly, why are we denying the experiences of poor rural Southerners or Midwesterners as any less valid or egregious than poor urban coastal Americans? Even if we disagree with each other's solutions for problems we commonly acknowledge, can we not acknowledge their pain too? When we stop listening, we stop seeing the other as a valid and worthy human being, but as the enemy, as one who hates America or is a fascist. Are there fascists among us? Yes, but not all of the other side can be accurately described as such. Are there those who wish ill upon our side or our demographic? Yes, but not all of them. To declare all people with leftist leanings enemies of the state is verging on the kind of authoritarianism that we have seen in true totalitarian regimes. Do we really want to emulate on that kind of politics? So how can we faith and interfaith leaders help reclaim our humanity? We are the moral compass of this world, of this nation. We need to see the value in each other's presence within our communities. And yet so few people listen to the faith leaders when they run contrary to the dominant political narrative. The majority of prophetic messages in the Hebrew Bible were critical of the establishment. It is that boldness embodied by the very prophets who spoke up against tyranny that got so many of them stoned to death by those supporting the establishment of greed and inhumanity. Pope Leo XIV has spoken out many times against the genocide in Gaza. And yet there are countless people in America who claim to be Catholic who reject what he says as mere liberal posturing. They are fine with supporting the authority of the Catholic Church, but when the leader of the Catholic Church says, "Stop, you're doing evil," they feel they know better, and they accuse him of being soft. Even at my own university, a Catholic university, guided by Jesuit values, the administration has departed from a century and a half of Catholic social teaching in support of the inviolability of labor unions, and has recently declared a religious exemption, refusing to acknowledge the non-tenure track faculty union, and effectively jeopardizing the well-being of hundreds of low-wage workers, academic workers nonetheless, and their families. But the administrators know better than numerous popes who spoke out unwaveringly in favor of labor unions. They know better, of course. So where does this leave us today? The International Day of Peace, which is today, is a UN-sanctioned holiday that was first established in 1981 and is dedicated to absolute world peace and specifically the absence of war and violence. In honor of this day, I would like the panel that follows to speak to many of these aforementioned issues in our society. I humbly ask them to speak from their hearts and from their traditions to convey and articulate a vision in which our churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, and other houses of worship are centers of righteousness and justice and not hatred or division. How can we bring this about? How can we listen to and understand our ideological opponents without demonizing them? How can we convey and articulate our idea of a peaceful world to them, to the proverbial other, while still honoring their unique specific needs and dreams, often contradictory to ours? How can we bring about as many iterations and versions of peace and flourishing as possible? So I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank the panel for convening, and I want to turn this over to our moderator of the panel, Daniel Tam, Reverend Deacon Daniel Tam, who will then introduce the individual panelists themselves. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Tam, and given that I'm going to introduce everybody, given that we just met each other about 10 minutes ago, and I think I remember everybody's names, and I think we're all like we're instantaneous children of wonderment among each other. I want to just begin with a brief story from my faith tradition as a follower of Jesus and a reader of those texts that are called Gospels in our tradition. This is a story that we don't even know if it's actually even belongs in the Bible. It's from the Gospel of John, and it's a story about perception. One group perceives one thing, someone perceives something else. It's about the peace of the community that's been disrupted by someone, a woman, and there are men coming to bring justice. And it goes something like this. Jesus was in a town square, and and a whole big crowd comes pushing a woman in ahead of them and kicking up dust and noise and shaking fists and casting her down in front of Jesus. Jesus, who's sort of reclining on the ground and kind of drawing in the dirt. And they say, Rabbi, this woman was caught in adultery. And we want to know, what do you think? The law says we should stone her to death. So what do you think we should do? And Jesus just doesn't look up, but keeps drawing in the dirt. I said, Jesus, what should we do? He looks up finally. He looks at the woman with compassion. And he turns to them and says, he among you who is without sin, cast the first stone. And their heads drop. And they look at each other, and they can't really look at each other. And they can't really look at Jesus anymore, or the woman. And one by one, they just drift away, saying nothing. And Jesus turns to the woman and said, so is this what happened? And she said, yes. He said, all right, well, go and sin no more. I am not judging you. Go and sin no more. And that's the end of the story. No one knows if it's actually legitimately written by John or even belongs there. But to me, it's among my favorite stories because it talks about a sensibility of violence and complete absence of peace, the absence of truth, the absence of compassion. And that's what I think is framing our conversation today. So I'm going to introduce my colleagues here. Up there is Amir. Hello, Amir. We're seeing each other for the very first time. All the way to my left is Farah, Claudia, and Rabbi Ari Cohen. Rabbi Ari is the only one among this panel whose last name I know. So, okay. So, I'd like to start. This is ostensibly about honoring the International Day of Peace. But let's not get right to, building peace just yet. First, it would be really helpful to learn what is on your hearts. So my question to you is, what is on each of your hearts at this moment?
I think what is in my heart at this moment. Sorry about that. Thank you. I want you to hear me. What's in my heart in this moment is that perhaps we've never needed peace more than we do now, in a country that is so polarized and so divided that we are in so many circles where we cannot hear people, that we have stopped feeling that our neighbors are like us, that they matter just as much as us. So it weighs heavily on me that there is genocide in Palestine, that our neighbors are being kidnapped and disappeared next door to us. I live in a community in an area where many of my neighbors are from El Salvador. And every day I go to my street to make sure the guy who sells the fruit is still there. I need him to still be there. And actually 3 weeks ago, he wasn't there. And I didn't know what happened to him. He was able to come, he is back. So my hope is, do you want me to use this instead? Take 3.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, a little audio goes a long way. So hopefully you heard a little bit of what I said, but if you didn't, the main point of that is that peace feels elusive and possible. And I think both of those things can live in the same world. It means that we have to fight for it. We are living in a time when peace is not guaranteed. So in my story was that every day I go to my street. I live in a community surrounded by people from El Salvador. Those are my neighbors. I consider them, I might not all know all of them, but they are my family because they live on my street. And every day I go out to see if the guy who sells fruit from his cart is still there. Because it's important to me that he is still there. Because I know that my neighbors are being disappeared and they're being kidnapped. And I know I have a responsibility to ensure that I know about that and that I can do something about that, because I can. I have numbers on my phone that I can call. I have friends I can talk to. I can come to places like this and form community with people like you so that we together are going to do that work.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It is, first, I want to thank you, Dr. Arik, for the invitation and to participate, to share, to come into this sacred space. I feel this is antidote to what we are experiencing out there. So it's very important to show up. Just for me, show up is part of peace building. And also to be sitting on one of my sides, Farah, and Rabbi Cohen, who has been who has been a source of strength and inspiration. And oh, everything okay? Oh.
Windows are too clean.
Oh. Okay. All right. So
I think he's all right. He's being attended to.
He's all right. Okay.
He's a strong guy.
Okay. Good. And just to add something personal.
Please.
That well, I grew up in São Paulo, Brazil. I moved to this country in the 80s, and in my heart it's very heavy when I think about what's happening in Gaza, what's being done in my name. And I'm a Brazilian Jew. My family went to Brazil after the Holocaust. And so my heart is very heavy with Gaza and also with what Farah mentioned, with what's happening with immigrants. I myself am an immigrant and feel a deep responsibility for acting, for taking action, and for protecting the rights that are being violated on a daily basis. Because I had certain privileges and certain people don't, so I feel a responsibility for that. Yeah, these are the things.
Thank you,
that
Claudia.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Amir, do you want to jump in? What is on your heart at this moment?
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly well.
Okay, wonderful. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. What is on my heart? I will say, first and foremost, the brutal genocide that's still ongoing in Gaza. Soon, it will be already 2 years. And this is also going to be an anniversary for the death, the murder of my friends and people that I knew. So the end of September, beginning of October, it's a challenging time for me. And of course, the other injustice and moral failures that I see in other places, like with the current climate in the US, that make me censoring myself in a way, because I feel afraid to share a lot what's on my mind and opinions and things related to even the war in my homeland, and another thing on a much larger scale, I am a mixed. So my father is Palestinian, Arab Muslim, and my mother is an Israeli Jew. Unfortunately, there is not a lot of mixed offspring in our land, because it's basically a cultural taboo, and there is also legal issues. For example, Israel is not recognizing the marriage of my parents. It's illegal in a way. Yes, so for me, peace was always something holy, in a way, religious, spiritual, and mandatory, such as oxygen, water, bread, other things in the world. And lately, what bothers me, it's an heavy on my heart, it's the peace became what I call now filthy peace. Meaning it became a little bit something more related to economic and military rather than something spiritual. If you are looking back on other decades and centuries, peace was something that representing harmony, union, collaboration. Nowadays, peace is related to business in a way. It feels like a business move. You see that the only peace agreements lately are kind of, it feels like a business deal between two companies, in a way. You can see, like, for example, that a lot of Trump supporters, what they say that Trump is a deal maker. You see the US peace agreements or friendly Congress with states such as Syria, for example. It's clear that there is not any pure peace there, but a business act. And this is disturbing me because I kind of miss the peace that we had in years such 1992, not so long ago if you think about it. 1992, the first agreements, or at least moves into agreements between Israel and Palestine, the Oslo Codes. You had Bosnia-Herzegovina. You had the end of the apartheid in South Africa. You had the Soviet Union that had changed. 1992 wasn't such a long. I think that 1992 in a way symbolized to me what is peace. And peace is not only a dream, but a mirror that reflecting the potential of our reality. Nowadays, peace, in compared to the peace that you can find in the year 1992, is again much more dirty, much more filthy, related to money and military, and this bothers me.
Thank you. Thank you, Amir. Rabbi Ari, what's on your heart? It can be anything, related to anything. But
is this mic working?
Take the other one. There you go.
I'm glad I mic'd myself up so that it doesn't work. It's something about the state of technology in the world. We get, the more sophisticated we get, the less we seem to communicate. So, what's on my heart? many times during the day, most of the day, I am on the verge of tears about what's going on in Israel, Palestine, about what's in Gaza, especially genocide, about what's going on here right outside our doors, ICE, and in the beginning of the summer, my country invaded my city. The National Guard and the Marines came. Some of us were out on the street protesting that, engaging them nonviolently. And around the world, I mean, Russia and Ukraine, and war seems to be, the way that people solve problems, though they're not solving anything. It's the way that people engage in problems. And so what's on my mind is really anger and sadness and loss of hope in the future. I mean, if we just, democracy was a nice thing. Maybe one day again we'll have some. The loss of all these things, the things that we took for granted that we shouldn't have. I mean, it's not like we had a perfect democracy before. We had a democracy for about 4 years in the 1960s after the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Immigration Act, and then Ronald Reagan. But that was a good time. We had so the loss of democracy is is part of that, but it's everything. I mean, the fact that what's on my mind is the heaviness of this moment in general. And also the fact that we talk about peace as if it's one thing. Amir just spoke about how peace has become, especially in the current administration, part of a business deal, but it always was. It was, during the Cold War, the United States and Russia and the Soviet Union divided up territories like real estate, and then it wasn't as if there was peace. They just fought proxy wars, but that goes back to when the world was quote unquote divided up between European powers who came to this part of the world and colonized according to some divine mandate that they had. And so, talking about peace is a stretch. What I wish for is the cessation of violence. And the only way to stop violence is by stopping violence. There's no half measures. There's no, stop violence a little bit. I'll put my hand in the socket a little bit, and I'll get slightly electrocuted, and that'll be okay. The only way to stop violence is by stopping violence and recognizing that every time we put violence out into the world, it just incurs more violence. As Arik mentioned also, that it's not that if I put violence out in the world because somebody attacked me, then that's fine. Then we just had violence, and then we're done. Every violence, defensive violence, as well as offensive violence, creates more violence in the world, and we have to stop it all. And I think that the other thing that's sitting heavy on me is that we're here all together, and I love the Islamic Center is my mosque. When I come to a mosque, I'm here often. But we also have to figure out how to have conversations with each other. We talk about having difficult conversations. I don't know if they're difficult, but they're complicated, and conversations across differences. But the differences that are really important here, I mean, from the outside, there's probably a very narrow band in which everybody in this room is sitting in. There are real differences, though, and those differences are interesting, and so, but those differences also should be spoken about. I once thought that it would be it would be a much better world if what people had fights about was whether or not blank verse poetry was an acceptable way of writing poems rather than rhyming poetry. That those will be a much better world. Whether or not Impressionism actually changed the course of culture in the 20th century. And if you read certain journals, it seems like that is the war, and that's great because nobody's getting hurt. But I think that there are also implications of some of these. So, for example, when we started with my friend Daniel Tam, who I've known for way too long. I mean, not way too long that I've known you, but I've known you for a long time. I don't want to think back on how long from when you were in the mayor's office, and I was standing outside screaming at you. But we won't mention that. The story with Jesus and who among you, who among you who is without sin should throw the first stone, which is used as a way, whether or not it was a true story, as I mentioned, but is often pointed to as the fact that love or mercy overcomes law. I come from a legal tradition, and the way you deal with people who are abusing law is through law. Right, within the Jewish tradition, if Jesus was actually a rabbi, I mean, he calls himself rabbi. Other people call him rabbi, but that was a very different. It just meant master. Rabbi then just meant master. If he was part of the rabbinic tradition, which is later than the New Testament, he would have said, okay, we need to have a trial. If you're accusing this person of somebody, do you have witnesses? Do you know what happened? Did this follow the law? And there were a way, and the Rabbi Akiva, one of the greatest rabbis, said that he would, if he had been sitting on the Great Sanhedrin when it was still around, that was another mythical form, nobody would have ever been executed. Not because he would have done away with it, but because the law has ways of dealing with complicated issues. And I come from a legal tradition, and that's something that's very big difference. There's a chasm between me and Daniel. There's like the Grand Canyon. That doesn't mean that we can't and don't work together on other things, but those are important differences, and all these important differences, and with Islam also. And they're important differences which shouldn't be papered over. Though at the same time, so therefore, when we talk about peace, what is it that we're talking about? Right? When we get beyond, and I think that there are important conversations of what does peace mean? Is peace an absence, or is peace a positive thing? Is peace, do we wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to be peaceful, right? What does that mean? Does that also include, can you be a peaceful, nonviolent person, but you wake up and the first thing in the morning is you scream at your kids? Right? I mean, how do we define peace? We're talking about peace, and the things that I'm crying about whenever I'm watching bad TV. I'm not crying about I remember once I was close after October 7th, I was in Trader Joe's, and I was looking there are these great Indian packets that, you put in the microwave in 3 minutes, great food. And they didn't have any. And so I was standing in an aisle in Trader Joe's crying because they didn't have these Indian food. And so one of the Trader Joe's employees came over to me and said, are you okay? And I just said, you don't have any more of the Indian food? And then 2 minutes later I said, it wasn't about the Indian food. But everything is so close to the surface because it seems like the world is going up in flames. The world is on fire, and we have to figure out a way of putting an end to it, and putting an end to, there's 60,000, 65,000 people that were counted as dead in Gaza. There are probably 25 to 30,000 more who are buried under rubble. There were 1,200 Israelis who were killed on October 7th. There are still 50 Israeli hostages. Half of them are still alive. The bombing goes on, which also means that another generation of Israeli 20-somethings are learning how to kill and be killed, and there are hundreds of Israeli soldiers who've been killed in this conflict. We don't think about that either, right? We are teaching our children to be violent. Right? We are teaching our children to be violent, and our administration is doing that. How do you deal with Democratic-run cities? You occupy them violently. There is violence in the streets, and most of it is coming from the state. And it's not disconnected from the top to the bottom. Foreign policy, domestic policy, violence in one will lead to violence in the other. I mean, I could go on for hours, but I won't.
Thanks, Harry. Yes, go ahead, Claudia.
I wanted to pick up where Rabbi Cohen said, what does peace building look like? And based on my experience, well, I'm a filmmaker, and I'm actually working as a group facilitator at a substance use disorder facility for formerly incarcerated people. And what peace building looked like when I was in the West Bank inside Hotel Everest, I don't know, maybe some of you are familiar with it, in Beit Jala. And I saw what peace building looked like. It was very basic, very human. You're sitting down in a room and you're talking to each other. And you're looking at each other in their eyes, and you're fully present as you are listening. And what you are listening might raise some really difficult questions that you have to deal with, including things that you believe your entire life. Like poses questions when you listen to the other stories, you begin to think about your own existential philosophy, especially if you believe that person was a threat to your existence and your enemy. And so actually making this film was a big shift for me, because I said, I wanna point my camera to some sort of to hope, because through the news, if I listen to the news, I get confused, I'm disturbed, my ideas about what people are like are very distorted. So I decided myself to go take that step, go outside of my comfort zone and spend some time at this hotel where there are many different peace groups are meeting in that hotel. And that for me, it was very important to see that face to face and the power that this dialogue conversation have. A lot of people will look at me and say, oh, dialogue, people are like, come on, let's not talk about dialogue anymore. What does that mean? It's impactful. What I saw there, 48 hours, the changes and people listening to each other, not only the stories, but the pain, being able to sit with that and look at your experience, and mine. I mean, we share so many things in common, and where we disagree, we just have to work through that. You don't have to agree with me. And that experience, the power of dialogue, was the same that I saw when I was in a small town in Austria, when descendants of Holocaust survivors and descendants of Nazi perpetrators were in the same room talking to one another. And at the end of the day, what did they want? To be seen, to be accepted, and maybe some kind of redemption. Was that, as my friend says, I cannot forgive you for the crimes that you committed against my grandparents, for example, but together, this German and Jew, we can work together, repairing the future, repair towards what we say in Hebrew, tikkun olam. There's something we can do. So basically what I wanted to go back to what peace building looks like is that there is something we can do, and peace is an action. We can pray for peace, but we need to take that step forward and be willing to get out of the comfort zone. And the same thing happens when I'm in the room in South Central LA with people that have been in prison and are now beginning re-entry society, beginning their lives. Their hopes, their aspirations were very similar to what I heard in Austria between, descendants of Nazis and Holocaust perpetrators, and in Palestine. What they want to be seen, they want to be accepted, they want to be heard and respected. For me, that's what peace building looked like.
Thank you, Claudia. I wanted to build on that, and can you, each of you, tell us a little more about maybe opportunities that your communities have had where you've gone beyond your communities and met with other groups, or had difficult conversations, or was in a situation where you would collaborate on a project, let's say. if anybody has experience of that and would like to share that.
So I'm a New Ground alum. If you don't know what New Ground is, it's essentially a bridge building between Jews and Muslims for the last 20 years here in LA. And what happens every year is that 10 Muslims and 10 Jews go through a 9-month, I'll say, a pilgrimage with each other and to each other in an effort to really be able to understand each other and maybe be able to see a world that we all exist in. And we do some hard work together, and that requires hard conversation. And I was in the cohort a month after October 7th. So the 10 Jews and the 10 Muslims in my cohort and I went through the next 9 months after October 7th together. And it was among the most transformative experiences that I've had in my life. I'm a former war correspondent and I'm also a filmmaker. So I feel like I've had a few transformative experiences, but New Ground was incredibly transformative. And among the reasons why it was transformative is because I always felt as a storyteller I had some tools. I covered wars. I covered people who wanted to kill me. So I felt like I had an ability to talk to people, maybe that would be helpful. And I realized after October 7th, I needed another set of tools. I needed more nuanced tools. I needed more tools to be able to talk to my Jewish brothers and sisters and to talk to my Muslim brothers and sisters, because October 7th changed so many things in so many ways. And I want to tell you, Daniel's question was, how did I have an experience that transcended this? So as transformative as New Ground was, one of the things that we did in New Ground is my Palestinian cohort, my Palestinian friend, and my Jewish friend and I decided that the world outside of New Ground looked like all three of us. And it had to look like all three of us. In fact, the three of us decided that we were going to take what New Ground taught us about walking and working through divides, and that we were going to go teach other people how to do that. And so we, Doctors Without Borders, hired us, the three of us, a Jew, a Muslim, and a Palestinian, to go talk to them about how they could do their work differently, how we had. One of the most powerful parts of actually doing training with Doctors Without Borders was the three of us having a real life conversation like we had in New Ground. And we saw people crying in the audience. We saw people holding their hearts in the audience. And I think it's partly because I think sometimes what we don't know, and we don't know until we see it, and we feel like maybe that feels familiar to us. Maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do that with people we don't agree. So that was transformative for me, to be able to take the work and what I learned in New Ground and to be able to share it and to be able to pay it forward. I'm sitting on a panel with two people whom I love dearly. As you know, Claudia is a Brazilian Jewish filmmaker, and Rabbi Aryeh is literally a leader in this community, a Jewish rabbi. And I will be celebrating tomorrow the Jewish New Year with my friend Rabbi Aryeh. And I think that this moment, these kinds of moments are really important, that I can embrace that is also meaningful to me, and that I am also at a table of Jews where I can be a part. And Rabbi Aryeh and I have been in, and Claudia and I have been in a lot of different spaces that are both Jewish and Muslim and Christians and people who don't subscribe to any faith. And I think the last thing I'll say is that my illustration of that is what I learned in an authoritarian country. I covered the Syrian war in 2018 and 19. It was the most violent year of the war. The Assad regime was literally using chemical weapons on anybody and everybody and children, and it was terrible. I wanted to get to Salamiyah. Salamiyah is a small town in Syria, not far from Damascus, but it was on the other side of Damascus. And I wanted to get to Salamiyah because what I had heard is that this community of Salamiyah was doing something really interesting under authoritarianism and fascism. That these people, who most of Salamiyah were people from a sect of Islam called the Ismailis. They are probably the Zoran Mamdanis of the Muslim world, and they were the majority in Salamiyah. And they were not the only people in Salamiyah. There were Jews, there were Christians, there were Druze. And the people in Salamiyah, the Ismailis in Salamiyah, had decided that under fascism and authoritarianism and brutal dictatorship, where the dictator was literally kidnapping people and putting them in torture prisons, they did something interesting. They decided that all the other people, the others in Salamiyah, would be their people. And so if somebody needed food, they would say to their Jewish neighbor, go to Abdul's house. Abdul has food for you. If you needed a place to stay, they would say to the Christian neighbor, go to Hassan's house. Hassan has a place where you can stay. And what the people in the Ismailis in Salamiyah helped me understand in this lens is that they did mutual aid, they did solidarity, because they understood instrumentally that their destiny was tied to the Jew, their destiny was tied to the Christian, their destiny was tied to the Druze, their destiny was tied to everybody in that place if they were going to survive authoritarianism and fascism. And I think that has lessons for us right now, because we are living in an authoritarian country, and our ability to do mutual aid and solidarity through the eyes of people like the Ismailis kind of matter.
Thank you, Farah. So I want to actually pursue that line of thought. I mean, we'll get more into peace building, but let's have a little detour and Amir, from your own context as well, and that detour is where we're living right now, the country we're living in right now, the regime we're living under right now. It appears as though every single day there's some new push or bending or breaking of constitutional law or norms or from the macro to the micro. It's the tiniest little thing. It's almost as if the president says something and it's supposed to happen, no matter how absurd or unfair or ridiculous it seems. We're just experiencing, media-wise, Jimmy Kimmel is thrown off the air, not because some egregiously bad thing he said, although it may have, it offended a lot of people. Offensive is one thing, but out and out lying and or deliberately abrasive and aggressive and violent, that's something totally different. But because an underling knew what his boss, the king, would like, and then others inferred, well, okay, well, we can't tolerate this because this is not the way things are happening in this country now. So we're not going to tolerate it. We're going to put pressure on people, and we're going to say, I think this person should be fired. And so like no due process, no hearing, no, well, what's your side of it, Jimmy? And something like that. So this is the reality right now. Reality now is shifting. So I want to ask you, how is it that you personally and in your community, and Amir, in your context, it would be where you are now as well, dealing with oppression. So how do you personally deal with this? What decisions have you made, or are you still at sea about it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, there is just a quiet delay, so I just needed to verify it. So the question is about my perspective about the U.S. Current situation, let's call it that way, or did you want to ask me about the situation in Palestine and Israel?
Well, you're not in the U.S., so we're dealing with something that is nearly inexplicable in terms of our experience as Americans. But in your context, you have your own deeply uncertain day-to-day reality. And so how do you deal with that to maintain a sense of a flourishing life, a life of maybe service, a life of love, a life of some joy?
So I found my shelter from all of this madness in books. As you know, I'm coming from a place that several religions calls it Holy Land. The fight over this Holy Land has been very textual since day one. The place that God promised Abraham, where Jesus was crucified and Muhammad ascended to heaven. All of these are parts of the top best-selling books on this planet, let's call it. So for me it was the most natural thing as someone who was raised among several religions to become a writer, to be a poet, an author. So for me, art, literature, poetry, that's what basically helped me to survive the oppression. I can't say that this is something that it's something more personal, okay, rather than a collective thing. Although I must say that the Palestinian poetry, there is something very unique about Palestinian poetry, because a lot of poets spend time in prison, in jail, because of their art, because of their text that they wrote. You know, even the national Palestinian poet, may rest in peace, Mahmoud Darwish, he spent time in prison for one of his poems. So there is something very strong about being a writer in a place that's censoring you. What is devastating for me, it's actually your situation in the US, because I'm used since my first day on this planet that the place where I'm coming from is ongoing war, brutal war and oppression and ethnic cleansing, and I'm used to it. But to see the images, and also I'm coming very often to California, to LA. So to witness this, how the land of the free, something that was symbolizing to us, to people in the eastern side of the globe, something like freedom, liberty, how it looks now terrifying, how it looks now the complete opposite of the word free. I want to tell you something. In the Middle East, when we are buying something new, a new computer, a new car, we say, this is like, it's like in America, it's like an American car. It's supposed to be like a compliment when we say that something is an American, okay? It's supposed to be like another word for something modern, up to date. Nowadays, when we are saying it's like in America, it's mostly about things like that are crazy demonstrations, looting, things like this. And I'm witnessing this change, and it's devastating for me because. Let's separate colonialism from this, but accept a lot of brutal oppression. There were also several good things that we adopted from you, from the Western world. Whether it's things like feminism or some technology, for example. And nowadays, the American way start to be less inspiring to adopt, unfortunately. And what I see is that a lot of countries in the Middle East, they are calling actually for some renaissance of the Arab world. I don't know if you heard of it, but I think it was Egypt that now are trying to do some kind of an Arab Union, like the European Union. And I think that one of the reasons is that there won't be in the future new world order, but it will be several new worlds orders. And it's because America, the US, experiencing some sort of earthquake, let's call it that way. I hope I could answer it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Amir. Thank you. Claudia? Or
Rabbi.
Rabbi? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, as is the custom, I'm going to answer whatever question it is in my head. So my adult life, a lot of my adult life has been a process of unlearning. I moved to Israel in 1976. I was 17 years old. I lived there for 12 years. I became an Israeli citizen. I served in the army. I was in Lebanon in 1982. I was brought up Zionist. I was very Zionist when I was in Israel. When I moved there, pretty right-wing Zionist. And the peace agreement between Israel and Egypt, when it first happened, appeared to me as kind of a devastating thing, an awful thing, giving back Sinai, and the Egyptian army would be right outside Beersheba, which is a southern Israeli city, and if anything happened, they would be in Tel Aviv in a half an hour. And what happened was right after the final withdrawal from Sinai, unprovoked, the Israeli army invaded Lebanon. And the Egyptian army didn't do anything. They just sat there. And whereas before the peace agreement, there had been thousands of troops on the southern border, now there were hundreds or tens of troops. And the Egyptian army didn't do anything. And so this confused me. And then I was in Lebanon, and I started to, whereas the war was supposed to be up till 40 kilometers north, and as soon as I was a reserve soldier, so when we got into the army, we got maps which showed Beirut, and we were supposed to go up to the Beirut-Damascus road, and we were being lied to. And this was the beginning of a process of recognizing that things weren't as they were supposed to be. And that process took me through the war. Lots of my friends died. When lots of your friends die, gives you a lot of space to rethink a lot of things. And so I was able to see clearly, or more clearly, it took many years, what the state of Israel had become, or was, what Zionism was, and I'm looking here at this beautiful picture of the Dome of the Rock, and that was always a point for me, a focal point, because that was where the temple was. That was where the Jewish temple was in the second temple, which was destroyed in 70 AD. But when I first came to Israel and I walked around the old city of Jerusalem looking for archaeological ruins, carrying with me this big heavy book by an archaeologist by the name of Nachman Abigad, who had dug the old city of Jerusalem and discovered the ruins of the Jerusalem of the Second Temple. I wasn't interested in what was happening above ground. I did not see Palestinians. I mean, I walked among Palestinians, I lived among Palestinians, but I did not see Palestinians. It took the war in Lebanon in 1982 for me to start seeing Palestinians, seeing the other. And it took a long, long time. I mean, when I left Israel in '88, just after the outbreak of the first Intifada, and which took me by total surprise, which means I chose to be blind and deaf. I chose, like most of the Israeli population, to be blind and deaf, because it shouldn't have been a surprise. It was a nonviolent intifada, a nonviolent uprising on the whole, but it was coming out of the deep anger of occupation, of the fact that there was no way out. And the fact that took me by surprise just pointed to the fact that I just wasn't paying attention. Because there were, I knew that things were bad. I remember a photography exhibit of a photographer who had been embedded with the border police, and pictures of the border police breaking people's arms, specifically breaking their watches because they were expensive, to, punishing people, doing all kinds. I remember The Yellow Wind by David Grossman, which had been serialized in an Israeli weekly much earlier. This is like in the early 80s. And to say, and still able to keep up this pretense, which I didn't realize was a pretense, of the fact that, oh my God, how is it that the Palestinians are uprising? Why? Where is that all that anger coming from? And so it took a long period of learning. Then I came back to the States in '88, and there was another process of learning, because I thought, I had always been enamored of Martin Luther King. I had read a lot of King. I had, always been interested in the civil rights movement. But it wasn't until the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement and, Trayvon Martin and Michael Harris and Ferguson, that I started paying attention to how deep the rot in this country was. That asking the question, are we a democracy? And where was civil rights here? Were there, and getting to know Black Lives Matter, organizing with Black Lives Matter and Clergy for Black Lives and other organizations, and starting to talk to people who lived in a completely different reality from me. Again, a choice to not hear and not see, because it was right there, right? And I was reading books, but I was completely ignorant and completely blind, and that's the situation still today. So the Jewish community that can support Israel still is a community that's willingly blind. They're blinded by lots of things. They're blinded by there's post-traumatic syndrome from their generational trauma from the Holocaust. There's which was reinforced by the trauma of October 7th. But how does that completely blind you to the fact that the genocide is going on in Gaza? People are willingly blinding themselves to a reality. And I think in this country too, how do we have a president who thinks that the Museum of African American History is making slavery look too bad? I don't understand. How bad is okay? It's like, so that is a choice to be blind, a choice to be ignorant. And I think if we're ever going to get any place, I don't know what peace will look like at this, but if we're ever going to get any place, and peace building, the way that you were talking about it, Claudia, and getting together in a room and talking to each other, that's a step way down the line. First, people have to stop being willfully ignorant of the other's story. All the other stories that make up this country, and it's not just black and white, it's not just black and Jewish, it's not just Jewish and Palestinian or Jewish and Muslim. There are so many stories that we don't know, and so many, people's narratives of awfulness and pain and suffering, and also beauty and wonder and glory that we don't know, that we need to know if we're ever going to get along in this country.
Thank you, Ari. Claudia?
I'm going to, yeah. So on that note, we need to create spaces where those stories could be shared. But we need to also get out of our comfort zone. We need to be curious. We need not to fear the other, and that is difficult. I don't want to underestimate how difficult that is, to step into that room, to sit at that table. So what it takes is what you're saying, preparation, and making the choice that I'm open to listen. It doesn't matter how difficult that is. What I wanted to answer Dan's question about what is it that we each are doing. Was that it in our daily lives, and how? Yeah, it's a good. Do you really want to know? Should I give you the short version? No, just like it is. It is very, very difficult. And where is the most difficult one? Is within the family. Is in the micro level in terms of how the difference, in terms of how generations, talking about, let's say I'll be very specific, my mother, myself, and my kid, how we look at Israel, how critical or not. There's such big thing, and I think I can speak about the Jewish community in general, like the difference between how the different generations are looking at Israel, the word choices, being critical of Israel does not equate to anti-Semitism. That's a big fight. Being critical of the country, it doesn't mean that you want it to stop existing. If every time I criticize the Brazilian government, it means that I hate the country and I want the country to disappear, okay. No, every time I criticize, I'm not questioning the right of a country to exist. I'm questioning the actions of the government, and I'm coming from a humanitarian place. At this point, it's not even left or right, even though I have my political choices, alignments, but what I see now in front of me, this is about humanity. This is about what you're saying. It's about reclaiming our humanity. So what I do every day, I chose to participate in groups like this. When I was invited, I said, this is an opportunity because I'm going to be sitting with people, even though we're not all talking to each other, but I am in a place, I'm at the Islamic Center. And I want to hear what others have to say. That's part of it for me. That's like New Ground, the Muslim-Jewish Partnership for Change. If you're not familiar with that, I highly recommend that you do, because there is a place for everyone. Not just, it's Muslim and Jewish, but there is a place for everybody. And they create the space that we're talking about to have these difficult conversations. So it is choosing to participate. And basically that. And in my family, having the difficult conversations and not shutting down. Because I'm not going to stop talking to my kid because my kid thinks differently. For me, what I appreciate more is that my kid is engaged. Indifference for me is the worst. May they never be indifferent to the pain of other people, to the struggles of the world. May they always have a stand, take a position, and care about what's happening. It doesn't have to be the same as I do. And I speak from this also, my experience growing up in a military dictatorship in Brazil, seeing when your rights are taken away from you, that you were first guilty until you prove yourself innocent. If a group of students is talking, in the corner, there's already the assumption that we're plotting against the government. Universities become a ground for a military invasion, military occupation. Students are the enemy of state. Writers, artists, everything that we're seeing here now happen in our countries, and a lot of it with the support of this country. So I can't help but remember Malcolm X saying, chicken coming home to roost. And there's a lot of brilliant people. I have a lot of love for this country. But I also see that you can't take your democracy for granted. You can't. And when you import something to the rest of the world, it's going to come back to you. And we've got to fight now. The good fight. Thank you.
Claudia. Thank you. This makes no difference, right? Okay. So I think we have honored the International Day of Peace by coming to the truth, which is that we're not ready to build peace. We're not at that point, as Aryeh said, and Amir was saying, it's some kind of like faulty peace that's going on. It's in 1992, it was peace was harmony and union and spiritual. This is like transactional. It doesn't feel quite, soulful or real. So I think what we're coming to, and anybody, you want to respond to this or not, is that there is no peace without justice. And there is no justice without truth. just after the invasion, soon after the invasion of Ukraine by the Russian armed forces, we were gathered. There was an interfaith group gathered in Westwood at Temple Sinai or somewhere, and everyone was sort of like, you know, feeling really good about being together. And people were wearing blue and yellow, and we were singing and all of this. And there was one person from Ukraine there, a priest. And he got up and he walked over to the microphone and he picked it up. He said, "You're all talking about peace. You're all saying we have to have peace. We have to figure this out." He said, "For us, there is no peace as long as there is a single Russian soldier on our soil. We've been invaded. We want every single one of them out. Then we can talk about peace." That's what peace means to us. So this is going to be a process. And it seems like it's finding ways to come together to just tell the truth, and then finding ways to reach justice somehow. And that's all that I can say. Anybody want to respond?
Can friends in the back hear me?
Well said that.
You hear it? Okay. Thank you for fixing that, sister.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's so important to actually make the declarative declaration that we cannot have peace without justice. It is an instrumental, and it's a part of this journey that we can't actually leave out because ultimately, I was at a documenting deportation event at ASU LA a few days ago. One of the people on the panel was the head of the Day Laborers Network. His name is Balbo Alvarez, and he said essentially, he said, you know, I'm from El Salvador, and I've been part of the Day Laborers Network since I came here many years ago. So I am a day laborer, and I will always be a day laborer. And he said, you know, I know what it looks like. I know what it means when there are masked men with guns on the streets. I know what that means. And I know that means Sikot. I know that means prison. That means concentration camps. And he said, and we talk to other day laborers, and we talk to people who are families or friends who understand us. And we need to talk to everybody like they are a day laborer. That means you and me. I have to be a day laborer too, because in this moment of fascism and authoritarianism, which seeks to divide us, like, let's just face it, I'm not really supposed to talk to you in a fascist system. You're not really supposed to talk to me, right? Because that's how power works. That's how control works. And so his point was that day laborers and all of us need to be able to find all the rest of us who we are not in community with. In my community of entertainment people, I'm frustrated a lot because the people who are freedom fighters for me, the Toni Morrisons of the world, the Octavia Butlers of the world, the Arundhati Roys of the world, tell us that in this moment, it is the artists who have the power of a pen, who have the power of a voice, and we need to, in this moment, when they're taking some of that, a lot of that away from us, when the president says it's illegal for you to say bad things about me, that's kind of not. It's not. and we need to be able to understand that and know that. And so I'm working with other creatives to create salons where we can act. We're going to soon be doing a salon with an undocumented filmmaker who will come and tell us, what is it like in this moment? He told me, you know, in June, I thought maybe I should just, after 25 years in this country, maybe I should just go somewhere else, maybe somewhere where they won't take me to a concentration camp. And he said, and I didn't. Because I realized that I need to create in this moment, I need to make art, I need to make film, I need to make the film of my people, the undocumented people. I need their voice. I need other people to hear their voice. And I'm just going to say these last few words if I can. Dan Gilroy, whom you may or may not know, he's a writer on Andor. And essentially, Andor was about a fascist takeover of a galaxy far, far away. He wrote this long thing, which I'm not going to read you, but I'll read you these last few sentences because I think they're very important. And I'd rather you hear from Dan Gilroy than Farah Faisal. So he says at the end, their goal is to instill fear, to make you helpless and hopeless, to break you down. Don't let them do that. And he is saying this to other writers and creatives. And he's saying it to all of us, actually. He says, educate yourself, organize, like my friend Ali Twene. Speak truth to authority because the story is not written. The pen is in your hand.
Well, I think that's a great way for us to end up here. Are you opening up to?
I'll say a few things, but did Amir want to say something? I think there was.
He did, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, opening up to the.
First, can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead, Amir.
Yes, first of all, sorry, it's almost 3 a.m., 3 o'clock in the morning here, so my mind could be sharper, pardon me. But what I wanted to say is that regarding the justice, there is a sentence from the late Roman Empire that goes like this: if you want peace, prepare for war. I repeat, if you want peace, prepare for war. So, although I'm a pacifist, although I am choosing and also learned non-violence resistance, sometimes when fascism is taking control, you have to act, I won't say in violent way, but you have to fight, even if it's a peaceful fight. So I think that we are going into times where oppression is not only related to a skin color. Oppression can be something that is not only of brown people and black people and Asians. It can be also a thing, like for example in Ukraine, when you see white refugees, when in the US you see now that you have your type of oppression. And I think that circling back to what I said at the beginning, that nowadays there is dirty, filthy type of peace that isn't spiritual. What is our mission? How we can fight it? It's basically by the ripple effect, meaning that the responsibility for peace is coming back to us, the regular people, not the authorities. Our responsibility nowadays is to make peace with our neighbors, in our communities, and so on. So the ripple effect will grow bigger and bigger. Our peace must be louder than their bombs. Let's say it that way. I would like to share something short. I will try to make it short. One of the most interesting things that happened to me during the current war is that I came back to speak with Israelis. I boycotted Israel for almost 7 years. By boycott, I don't say the Western American way of boycotting that I see a lot of people on social media that they just canceling an Israeli brand or whatever. I deleted and cut all my social life, even with Israeli people that were left-wing, because I just couldn't believe it anymore. I couldn't believe that can be some dialogue there. And the war made me understand something. The war made me understand that I can get recognition from American, I can get recognition for being Palestinian from Irish people and British, but it doesn't matter anymore. The only people and place that it really matters if they recognized me, it's actually the Israel and the Israeli people. This is the only place where it matters, the recognition completely, and it's more effective. And I noticed that I used to do peace building service in Florida, in California, in several places in the world. And everything was effective. But the thing that I needed to most, it's actually to have dialogue with the person from the other side. And what happened is that during the war, for the first time, I broke my silence and I started to negotiate with Israeli people and speak with them about peace. And I made a circle actually in Los Angeles with Israeli Jews and American Jews. And it was the first time that I spoke with them and I didn't boycott them, and other Palestinians as well. And it was such a therapeutic feeling. You know, I could even compare it to the circles that after the apartheid in South Africa, they made circles and both the oppressors and those who were oppressed were around the circles and cried together and united. It felt really strong. And what I want to say is that it made me ask a question that I want you, all of you now, to ask yourself. What is mine to do? What is mine to do? What is my responsibility as individual to do? What can I do that I'm not doing for peace? For me, for example, it was not to come with a straight dialogue with the other. And maybe you also, you don't have any Israeli Jewish friend, you don't have any American Jewish friend, you don't have any Muslim friend or Buddhist or whatever is the story there. And ask yourself, what is mine to do? How can I make this ripple effect happen?
Thank you, Amir. Are we open to questions or?
We should probably keep it somewhat brief because there is
Yeah.
some hot food available, and we don't want to ignore that. And I'll make an announcement about that in a minute.
Okay, very good. If yes, Ali.
I don't have a question, I have a comment, and it's, I want to thank everybody for what you did. If everybody remembers the writers' strike that was lasted 148 days. So when these writers, they went on strike, everybody thought that, because the news was telling us that these people, they want everything, and they're greedy, and they're everything. So the strike lasted 148 days. Previous strikes have happened in many industries, but this one was a unique one. What happened during this strike, that the entire labor movement bond together, understood what everyone needs. I camped with people at picket lines. We were going door to door delivering food to their homes. People could not take their kids to school. So we were able to go to their homes, take their kids to school. So in order to achieve something grand of that magnitude, we really need a radical empathy. That's what's gonna change. And we don't want to be part. You want to be the change. Each and every person who desire to see peace need to work for peace. I got home last night and I know I was coming to this event. So usually we use chants that, galvanize people and elevate our voices. But I thought of something to be different this time. It's the 10th anniversary. We're going through so much in the world. So what I came up with, it's very inspiring and interesting that you all talking about today. I thought there will be no peace without justice. So I thought, let's get something to energize everybody, and let's meet the moment. So what I said, it's true, but I've been told truth and justice always hold. It's true, but I've been told love and kindness always hold. Tricks and lies will not divide. People standing side by side. And of course, there was no power like the power of the people. So thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Asad Al-Najjar. I'm the current candidate for LA Mayor for Los Angeles. And I've been very active for the past many, many years. What I'm trying to say, historically, the Valley tried to secede, and we established the neighborhood councils for the past 25 years, which is trying hard to survive. But this is the opportunity now where the charter is being rewritten, that we have something in the charter to address interfaith. We are not properly addressed in City Hall. There is a lot of issues just slip by. Okay, so we get hosted for eating there or something, but realistically, our voice is not heard. And I think this is the time where Daniel and Sarah Cohen and all of you ladies get together, and we as a community add something in the charter. This is our opportunity that we say we are united in solidarity, and it's not just hollow words on Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Khaled Fatal. I won't bore you with the detail of what my claim to fame, but and forgive me if I don't address you by name because I don't know you personally, but there's something I want to bring in, and I want to put it in a constructive, challenging manner. Many of you have been doing some amazing work in what you're doing for 10, 20, 30 years. And yes, you may have been successful at certain times to do things, but guess what? We are now in unprecedented times, and we are facing, in the land of the free, in the land where we have constitution and laws that protect our free speech, and yet we are becoming more of a fascist country. Why this is relevant? The challenge I'm going to put to you here is just talking about interfaith, talking about Amir mentioned made some great comments about freedom and democracy. We in America are fantastic at branding. We are excellent at marketing. We had a unique opportunity when the Soviet Union fell, and instead of going and championing the world and giving them democracy, guess what we did? We went on a plan to go and regime change and occupation, and actually not occupation, invasion. This is public information. Power came with significant corruption in the last 3 decades, and I'm not going to make this into a lecture because there's a conclusion into this, why I'm making a recommendation. In the last 3 decades, look where we are. The Uni Party has actually worked to make sure that, yes, we are divided between ourselves, the women's rights, the legal, the child's rights, the black versus the white, and guess what happened? They maintained the status quo. How did it become that if you are vaccinated, you're a Democrat, and if you're unvaccinated, you're a Republican? So why I'm saying this here is, I am proposing that we need to challenge challenge ourselves into coming up with a new conversation that brings the majority of people around the world who want to live in peace, who want kindness, who want to have dignity. They want the same thing. These are, I'm sorry, breaking news. This is not American values. These are universal human values. The Chinese want the same thing. The Russians, the Ukrainians, the Arabs, the Jews, everybody. My point here is I think we need to change the conversation to something else that is far more a common denominator to the people, because where we are today in society has been so accelerated, we don't have 20 years to fix things. People want quality of life now. So I'm proposing, instead of talking just about peace and justice, let's bring it down to a common denominator of values. If we do that, most people, when they see the word peace, well, how do I participate to give you peace? And guess what? They go back and sit back on the couch. Justice? Are you kidding? We have legally empowered officers today coming in, arresting people in the name of the law, as if it's Judge Dredd, and without giving due process. The Constitution says every man in the United States must be given due process, not every citizen. So even if you're illegal, you must be given due process, not just packed and delivered. So my point here is we need to find something, and I'm proposing that it's the word values, to bring it down to the people so that at least they know this relates to them. Peace often may not necessarily relate to the average citizen to mobilize. And here I close on this. The difference between an interesting conversation versus a compelling conversation is one that interesting never leads to a decision or an action. You have to compel people to say, you know what? We need to repatriate our values. That's my 2 cents. And I think this is why we need to reimagine what needs to be done, because we are at a critical time. My 2 cents.
Thank you. Eric, get on.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah. So if there are no further questions, I just want to thank. Oh, okay. And somebody gave this to me prematurely. Okay. No.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly who said it and exactly what you said, but something about why the average Israeli can feel that this is okay. And I just want to say, I think more than anything else, it's impunity. It's when you're able to commit terrible crimes and it goes unchecked, it just naturally makes you more able and more likely to commit a greater crime. So I think the United States government and everybody else who has granted impunity to the state of Israel is more responsible for Israelis supporting the genocide than anybody else. And it's not just the money that it gives, it's the impunity. It's telling them, okay, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And this is really, really awful, not only for the Palestinians, but for the Israeli Jews, because it's hardening them.
Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings, everyone. I'm Sister Abiba. Thank you to the panel for your insightful conversation. I was on the front line of the march today, and I did see the power that the people can incite. The whole city, the police officers were chanting with us, and the passengers and the drivers were stopping and watching. Even one guy put his hand up when I was putting my hand up. So my statement, and I have a question, and I'm going to make a statement. I think that the young people the Generation Z, like my children, Generation X, or, is our generation. I think that it's up to the young people to institute leadership because the children are going to be the suppliers of the future. So maybe a solution, because I like to focus on solutions, not just the problem, the systemic problem. I think that if we select leaders that have a moral compass to themselves, that might be the solution to bridge all of the factions together, such as establishing virtue and values, establishing a mindset of peace and prosperity amongst a universal community. Somebody who has a very balanced approach, and I think a lot of the younger generation is more susceptible to that. They have a more new age mindset. So maybe selecting leaders that are not kind of like, so to speak, stuck in their ways, like a 70-year-old or 80-year-old. He's stuck in, oh, my father was a Nazi, or something. So just more of a non-biased, progressive approach, I think might be the solution, better leadership. And like the gentleman said, when you have a system that's set up, is systemically set up out of evil. It's systemically set up out of opposition, racism, oppression. When Amir said that, I almost cried, that he had been oppressed in a society since the day he was born. I almost cried because there's no reason why a society should be set up in 2025. We shouldn't be having this conversation in 2025. I graduated from university myself. My mother was called a nigger when she was 5 years old, but I graduated in a time, and then when I was married, a Black president became president in my generation. So I saw a different perspective, even though my mom was called a nigger when she was 5. So I was able to experience something different of progressiveness. So in a time when we had a Black president and we've had, some systemic changes happen, we shouldn't be, still in this situation of going backwards. And so I agree with Mr. Amir about in the 90s. I really like the 90s because it inspired people of my age and my generation to want to go to university, to want to be a leader. I was part of the DNC. I was very active when I was younger, part of President Clinton's campaign. So my solution is, and I just wanted to ask the panel, what do you suggest for the young people to do? Because I think that the key is just to find leadership that is more oriented towards positive change, not so much just economic advancement. Although the economics is an important part, you have to have a certain value system. And then maybe have an advisory from the interfaith community. That might be a way to do it. So that way, no matter what the leadership that's in place, what their views are spiritually, that they have a perspective from other scholars and other people in the interfaith community. So I just believe that it's part of restorative justice and, just having good leadership. So what do you guys suggest? What can we do to create a solution so then the future is brighter and not oppressed and is not, and it just, we can operate in an advanced society.
Anybody here?
Okay. Thank you. I have a friend who is 17 years old, who's a high school student, and what he's decided to do this year is that half of his family is undocumented. He understands this moment perhaps more than most other people. And what he's decided in his school is, if he's the first kid in his school, and that is the first school across the city of LA that has instituted a high school students union. And they are going to expand that to all schools in LA. I think if you look at the civil rights movement, and if you talk to Rabbi Cohen, who is doing a lot of this work on the ground, both on the streets and nonviolence training, unions have always been integral to solidarity. Unions bring people together from across the demographics and the populations in the service of of each of our own freedom. I mean, but ultimately that's what it is. And so, I have a Gen Z friend who is already understanding his own, understanding what he needs to do in this moment. And maybe some of us can learn a little something from him.
Yeah, I agree with this, and I want to add the importance of civics and civic education, and to understand that what's happening in Washington or on a local level have a direct impact in your lives. I can tell you how many kids, when I went to register, I don't know if you're talking about younger, but the 18 at East LA College, where there is not this we don't know who the candidates are, or I ask, what are the issues that you care about, right? So look at the leaders there that represent the things that you care about, and go and vote. I think that's so important, to have that civic awareness that we as citizens have a really important role to play in our society. I just don't think that that's there. Even in the education in high school, I don't know if there are civics still, but that's super important, I think, to get engaged. As much as we have mistrust and very disappointed, but there are new leaders coming up. We need to empower them, and I think that's where young people could really make a difference, at least become engaged. This has to do with me, and I'm going to choose to participate. That's my take.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, very briefly, sir. Yes.
What I see is two things.
Take the microphone. Sure.
Two words. Yeah, two words. Narrative and respect. Listen. Communicate with respect. Introduce yourself. Everybody introduce themselves with respect. Listen to each one of our narratives, how we see things, okay, in this world. Me, I see from the 1960s when it was peaceful. I know what it's like. My family, where we didn't have to deal with racism. It happened only after they made some laws. I didn't know what the laws meant then, but I know it was passed in that time. Now, shortly after the laws were made, oh, by the way, I lived in a neighborhood with Jews down the street from me, Catholics down the street from me. Many, like half and half, what do you call it? Caucasian. We call it Caucasian in those days, not white and black. There was no, people were in Detroit, Michigan, weren't calling them in that part of the neighborhood, was thoroughly mixed. There were Arabs. I have relatives that were Arabs, my uncles, two of them. My family is an indigenous African American with papers, documents. This is part of the story of America. My family, part of them, were rich, very rich. But the fires and the government came against and burned down the neighborhood. The part of Detroit, Michigan, systematically, slowly, had much wealth. These are the indigenous over here before, over 1,000 years ago. I'm a descendant.
So I'm going to have to ask
Okay.
if you could draw your
Okay.
remarks to a close.
And
Thank you.
Yes, okay. So I'm just saying we should just introduce ourselves, really introduce ourselves. The first thing I saw in here, I started introducing myself to as fast as I can, as many people as possible. That's what was on my mind. The speech is okay, but the introduction is more important. Understand? I learned this that keeps me out of trouble wherever I go. Just that, introduce, let a person know. If there's trouble around, do the same thing and respect the person right around your space. And that keeps out trouble usually.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'll thank them. All right, Claudia, Farah, Amir, what a pleasure having just met you and sharing this time with you and with all of you as well. Thank you for taking the time to come out and, just sort of like struggle along the ground, to find our way together. Thank you very much. Well done.
So I'd like to echo what Daniel said, and I want to thank all of the panelists for coming here. It meant a lot to me personally when they accepted my invitation to be panelists. So I do want to remind you that, as we had mentioned, that the 6 of LA brought food. I had thought it was going to be earlier in the day, but I'm just glad to have food. So it is vegetarian food. I believe it is possibly in the rec area, so yeah, the lunchroom. So please make sure you get food. Do not go without food. Do not let any food go to waste. All right, so please enjoy that. But I want to thank you all for coming today. Please do not hesitate to make a donation to the Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace, and Justice, which you can do through the website, irtpj.org. There's a donate button on every page. The funds raised will help to defray the costs of this march, as well as past marches and future marches, as well as various other expenses such as insurance and technology-related expenses such as the website that can help further all of our programs. So once again, I would like to thank all of the houses of worship that took part in this event, including St. Basil's, Emmanuel Presbyterian, and of course our gracious host, the Islamic Center of Southern California, all of those who supported material in any way. We tried to thank all of them on our program, but I do want to especially acknowledge the Islamic Center. So please stay tuned for future events, and blessings to you all. Thank you for coming.